Welcome guys, and I realize this may be an extremely long video, but I have a lot of very good information in here for you guys, and I did my best to make sure it's all completely accurate. So, if you want to watch the whole thing, watch the whole thing. But if you don't, look down in my pinned comment. I have the whole thing broken out into areas of interest, and you can skip right to your desired subject. Watch the whole thing or don't. Subscribe, please. Tell your friends. I work hard on these. And enjoy the show. Now I'm ready. YouTubers, welcome back to the Garage, and today we're back on the LT1. Yeah. Yep, I realized that might have been slightly creepy, but roll that beautiful logo. Alright, so in case you failed to read the title, we're doing today is piston to valve clearance, and we're going to check our rocker geometry for this setup. This is a cool tool that you don't need because I figured out it doesn't work worth a shit, and I'll explain that later. But what we're going to do right here is we need check springs, which I'm not going to use because I've already done this. We're going to use shims. That's going to be as close to our gasket size as possible. We're going to use an adjustable push rod to get our push rod geometry. We're going to use this guy right here, this Sharpie, to see what our sweep's going to be like on top of the valve, and Play-Doh for the piston to valve clearance. Let's get started. If you happen to watch the last video, you'll know that we did the pickup clearance, and we also installed, or actually pre-installed, our windows tray for this guy. And if you notice, I put blue Loctite on this last video. If you haven't seen this, guys, please go and watch the entire series. It's a good series. I'm doing this for you guys because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen to get to this point. And look at this. These guys right here are nice and seated exactly where they want to be, which you can understand why these are here if you watched the last video. All right, so first we're going to turn this dirty girl so we can get to the pistons. Gosh dang it. I put one too many washers on this side, so it won't clear the stand. There we go. It's a one-way turn deal here, and we're gonna put the locking pin back in it. Don't really need it, but we're gonna do it anyways. So first things first, we're gonna use these guys right here. You know what? We're actually gonna turn it one more time. Right there on the stand. You know, and I'm going to use a screwdriver. We're going to get it a little more level. There we go. It's not quite level, but level enough. Don't need that right now. And we're using these 30,000 shims, and the reason why is because the gasket is going to be an MLS head gasket, and it's going to be, let's put this one right here. We want this section to be the closest. And the MLS head gasket, like I was saying, is going to be 36 thousandths, and this is 30 thousandths. So we know if we're clearing with the piston valve clearance, as is here, and we're all good, that when the gasket goes on, and when we actually put our lash in this guy, we're going to have plenty piston valve clearance. So we're going to bring a number one up. And get her right there, we can look at her. All right, there she is. So we need to clean this section off first so that our Play-Doh sticks to it. So let's go ahead and do that. Man, guys, I usually use the cheapest and most affordable things, but look at this. For this video, I got the Scott Shop original high dollar stuff for you guys. Let's do it. Take some brake clean. Spray on like so, and we are just going to clean right in here. That's our area of interest. Well, hey guys, when they say age is 2+, they mean it. I'm 41 years old and I'm still effing with some Play-Doh. Woohoo! All right, there's a couple of things you want to consider when you're using the allotted amount of your very high dollar Play-Doh for your motor. Now these combustion chambers on the LT1 are extremely small, especially mine. These heads have been hit so many times that the valve extends farther than the head. And these combustion chambers, when I CC'd them, were 52 cc's, which is extremely small, and that's why this motor is going to have so much compression. So we need to be considerate and use a very small amount of Play-Doh. We want to do our piston valve clearance on this motor. So we're back on the piston, and you can see just how little bit of fun time I'm using. And we're going to get that, like I said, my combustion chamber is super small, so we're going to give adequate room for it to squeeze all over the place. We're going to get this flush with the top of this piston right here, and hopefully that's enough. Like I said, we cleaned in here in the valve recess so that it'll stick there. And all this section above this, we don't want it to stick. We want it to not stick here, because we don't give a shit about this. You only care about there. You know, I'm gonna put some right on top of this guy too. Really don't want it to stick to the head. All right, so now we're gonna get our head on the dowel pins. I'm gonna look right over here, make sure I'm right in line with the bolt holes, and if I'm a baller, boom, there we go. Going to put one right here, which is, damn it, it's the wrong size, so we'll use that one, that's fine. Get another point of contact. Put one right here, and we're gonna put one right there. And we're going to gently torque these down. Don't torque them down all hard and tight. If you want something hard and tight, go into the bedroom with your lady friend or wife. You know what, I'm also gonna put one right here. Just for safe measures, because you want the head to be as level with the block as possible to get an accurate piston valve measurement. All right, we're gonna tighten these guys down. All right, make sure they're all not cross-threaded by any means. And I'm gonna put on some punk-ass torque, because we really don't want these to indent on the head. One's obviously too much. There we go. And the reason why is because these shims are hardened steel, and it's harder than the aluminum. So if you torque it down too much, you're going to imprint that on your head after you got it nice and straightened out. It's not a good thing. Make sure this guy is not moving, the shim that is, and we're good, which means everything is nice and flush. Boom! Got you! Ha-ha! All right, guys, I done effed up, and I'll show you why. This is a Gen 2 OE roller block, which means the deck on the block where the lifters are at, this is higher than a Gen 1 block. So you have to get, if you're getting a solid lifter, it has to be 300 thousandths taller to clear this when they're moving. So what does that mean for this? Why did I mess up? Well, since it's 300 thousandths taller, there is no way to get these guys in there with the head on. So you have to get all the lifters in before the head goes on, which really does suck, I ain't gonna lie. Actually, they're going this way, but you can see there's still no way to get them on. So yeah, I'm gonna loosen this up and slide these guys in here. So note that when you're doing these builds, else you're getting a brand new gasket once you torque these guys down. Why sit me on errand? Had to stop the video. I'm in the grocery getter. If you can't put pump gas in your motor and go to the grocery store, you ain't got a street car. all safe at the weigh, guys. All safe. I am severely lactose intolerant, so I can't have any of this shit. Mission freaking accomplished. Just need to make one more stop. Gonna get some distilled water. Well, sorry for the slight distraction, but as you can see, we're back to where we need to be. Well, like I was saying earlier, you want to use check springs to measure your piston to valve clearance. And this is for several reasons. Let me put these guys away. For number one, if you are using a hydraulic lifter, it is not going to be pumped up to the full height and you're going to collapse it with your springs. A check spring will not do that. I'm using a solid lifter, but I would still recommend checking it with a check spring. The reason why is because even though I have a solid lifter, I'm running high spring pressures, which means these guys can actually bend a little bit. And you can also, what will flex a little bit is your studs. So you want to make sure that this section is not putting too much pressure on the other components that will otherwise give you an inadequate piston to valve clearance check. Since I've already done this with the check springs, I'm not going to do it again, but I'll show you the process right now and pretend that these are check springs for me. So what we're going to do first, we're going to watch these two guys. Let me get a little closer on the video. As I turn this over, see? Turn the motor over. All right, so before we can put our rockers on, watch these push rods. See how this one's coming up? You do not want to put that on when it's at the full height of the lift. You see that one coming up now? Keep watching it. It's going to go up, and now it's going to go down. And you're going to watch this one and both of them. And when it's down, kind of turn it slow. And when they're both not moving, that means they're both on the bottom of the lope of the cam. And when you put these guys on, one of these sections is machined for your poly locks. You're going to put that up, the smooth section goes down. Do it for both of them, like so. Now we know they're pretty much on the bottom of the lope. We're going to make sure our poly lock is up enough that it won't catch on our stud. We're going to screw this down all the way till it stops, finger tight, which means we have zero lash. Do the same thing with this guy right here. We're going to screw it all the way down, just finger tight, to where we have zero lash. Finger tight, finger tight, finger tight. Now we're at zero lash. Now we're gonna rotate the motor over. There goes the exhaust. There goes the intake. And we're gonna do this a couple of times. Keep on going, folks. We wanna make sure that our Play-Doh from we were little small toddlers gets all the nice indent perfectly where we want it to be. All right, zero lash, zero lash. Oh, you know what? Let's try this again. Yeah, it's good to check that. Let's just double check all that. Do it again. You gotta make sure you're at zero lash. Keep on going. This is a very, very critical measurement. Now, as you're turning it over, if you get to a point where you're like, and it won't move, stop. That means you're probably bottoming out your valve on the piston and you have a huge problem. So now it's time to reveal yourself to us, Play-Doh. Probably speed this up a little bit here. You know, take all the shit off that you put on. One, two, three, four, all right. Let's pull this guy off. very carefully up. Hey, we got plenty piston to valve clearance. All right, so let's get in here real quick. So now I'm gonna take my commando knife. I'm gonna very carefully cut right here. Don't push down too hard, folks. And slowly remove that section. And then I can already tell you right here, this is more than adequate. I'm going to cut right here. Probably should have cut that side because you can see it easier, but we'll make do with that because we ain't doing that again. So now taking the old calipers, we're gonna take our measurement. We're gonna find the smallest section, which appears to be right here. We're gonna go all the way down to where it just starts to imprint, right there. And according to that, we have 111 thousandths of an inch. So we're definitely good on the intake side. I do believe the intake side, you don't want any less than like 55 thousandths. You can go lower, but you better be damn sure that it's not much more than that. Now it's time for the exhaust side, which it barely has an indent right there. Let's see, can we get this? Well, let's go right where it has an indent. I know we're darn sure good here. And we have, let's put it here so you can read it. We have about 160 thousandths of an inch. So the piston to valve clearance in this motor is fine. Okay, this is a topic that I misunderstood for a long time. I was like everyone else when I said, pretend this is the top of your valve. And this is the roller tip on your roller rocker. In a perfect world, you want that to be in the middle and pushing straight down and straight up. You notice how this didn't move from here to here. So you want to go straight down and straight up. That's a perfect world. Now, your motors, if they're old, been machined, who knows what's happened to them. They could be slightly this way in the block. Your head could be slightly off at an angle. All that has to do with the geometry of your head and your rocker geometry. And the push rod on a stud, you have to set that height to get that correct. So with that said, let's talk about this. So say you use that tool that I had right here that I flicked off earlier. It will get your rocker in the center of your valve tip. But that does not necessarily mean this is the best place for your rocker on your valve tip. And here's why. Say if it goes down and if it moves over here. So it moves over here, what's it doing? It's now pushing your valve like this, which puts wear on your guide. And then it comes up, it might move over here. So you might have a big sweep in the middle of your valve tip, which is what you don't want because that will wear out your guides very quickly. Remember, this is perfectly flat. So if it's over here and pushing straight down, that's fine. If it's pushing straight down here, and if it has a smaller sweep, that's where you want your geometry to be. If it's over here and it has a smaller sweep, that's where you want your geometry to be. Because if it's pushing straight down here or pushing straight down here, that's where you want your geometry to be. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so we're gonna go to the one right here. I'm going to put a nice fresh pad on there. And for this one, we're gonna use this tool. And I've already set it up with this, so I'm gonna put this adjustable push rod in for reference. And we're gonna make sure that first and foremost, it's at the bottom of the lope. And it is, it hasn't moved. We're gonna put this guy on there. And let me change angles so you can see it. And as you can see, This is straight with the tip of the valve, and there's no space right here. So according to this tool, this is the correct push rod geometry. Let's put a rocker on now. And now we're gonna put our rocker on, like so. Take her down to a 0 lash. All right, 0 lash. And it's time to turn her over. Here we go. Do it a couple of times. I want to make sure that we got a good imprint. All right, hope you guys can see that. I can see it. Let's go ahead and measure this sweep. Look how big it is by being on the center of the valve. $90 thousandths on that side. Yep, about 90 thousandths on that side. That's almost piston the valve clearance sweep, which means as it goes down, it's pushing this way and then it's pushing this way. And that is not what you want. All right, so round 2. Now, luckily I had one laying around on the shelf that was way longer than it should be. I said, you know what? Let me throw this bad boy in there and let's see how it is. 'Cause I knew it's gonna put the tip more over here. All right, let's get it at 0 lash. And now we're gonna turn her over again. I'm actually getting more lift with this longer push rod too. You wouldn't think that would happen, but I definitely am. Yep, definitely a little more. It puts it right where it needs to be on the cam card at 592 lift. I know that because I used the dial indicator on there and it was right on the money of where the machine shop wanted it to be. Do it one more time. All right, let's look at that sweep. Busted my knuckle, guys. Son of a bitch. Look at that. That is literally half the sweep as the other one. So small, I gotta do this real quick. Okay. 40. So we went from 90 thousandths to 400, to 40 thousandths. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's gonna put way less wear on the valve guide. I'm gonna run that any day of the week. I used to be one of the guys that said you have to put it in the middle. That's the best place to put it. I was wrong. I've been on the forum saying that. So I'm gonna say I'm wrong, and after talking to Dennis and the guys over at Clinton Machine Shop, they explained this to me and it makes perfect sense now, and hopefully that makes perfect sense to you. Well guys, that's pretty much it. We're getting a little bit closer to putting this guy together. If you've seen my other videos, you'll know that we got the pan, the windage tray, all that pretty much set up. We now know that we have the piston and valve clearance set up pretty close. We know where to put a rocker arm geometry in this motor. So just keep on following me guys in this. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully I've cleared some things that I've been wrong about in the past. Until next time, peace out.